with our guys. We'll be in the stadium, so we'll be on turf. But excited for today. I know that not only from the coaches, but the players, everybody from A to Z, got a lot of people in this building. Kind of always talk about the evolving times of college football. So literally have first-year player meetings today, right? So what that means is anybody that's never been in a fall camp with us as a football program here at the University of Illinois is in that meeting. So have 119 roster spots that are filled right now, and 45 of those guys are in our first fall camp together ever, right? So 40% of our team is experiencing fall camp. Now, a lot of those guys are with us in the spring, a little bit of how we do things, but just to put a perspective, in the spring, we're still under a pretty intense NCAA allotment of time that we get each week, some rules around that. And fall camp today, they'll walk out of the building this evening after practice, and they'll be on the grass or in meetings or in walkthroughs or in practice in some capacity. Got about a 45-minute window here with weights. They'll be in this building working with us about 10 hours today, right? So that's the same schedule for every day this week, 6 days in a row. By Saturday, walking off the field Saturday night, they would have gotten in over 60 hours, maybe 70 to 80 with some volunteer film time of work that they would have done this week. That's the equivalent of 4 game weeks in itself, literally in 1 week. So football can be a little bit of a grind at this time of the year. You got to have guys that love it. They got to understand it. They got to appreciate it. As coaches, we got to speak it. They got to be able to understand it. I stress a lot since January to where we are today about communication. It's one thing to speak it. They got to be able to understand it, and then we got to be able to hear them as well. So really excited where this group is from an injury standpoint. Really don't expect I'll let you guys get out there for a little bit tonight. You'll be able to see it. There's some guys that are still limited in reps. KO coming into it. James Kreutz will still be limited a little bit. Zachary Franklin will be a little bit limited just coming out. There's a couple guys with some soft tissue things that we're going to work through here the next couple weeks. There's only about 3 or 4 guys. Kellen Francis, obviously Mason Morgan, Tyshawn Griffin still. There's only about 3 or 4 guys that are going to be limited from practice in that capacity. Dennis Briggs, unfortunately, became ill yesterday during meetings, and I don't know if he'll be out there at practice today, but that's just a 24-hour bug or whatnot. So other than that, we should be pretty clear and excited to get out there tonight.
Brett, you've added a bunch of new staff in the recent weeks. What does that help you going into camp, and what's the sweet spot in terms of that ratio of coach instruction to players?
In reality, I didn't add any more. I had 2 analyst positions that were open. I just didn't fill them because when the season got done last year, Jimmy was there. We were still in some conversations. I had talked about some guys coming in during the spring, but I really wanted for this rule change to go into effect so I could attract the right type of person for that position. So really the only bonus we got is 2 hourly wage guys, Dele and Trent. Dele I mentioned at SEC Media Days. Just very impressed with him. Brought him in during the course of the spring. Had a chance to sit down with him. He was at Rice, but he'd been at Houston with Archie. Obviously his past history here was, everybody spoke volumes about who he was. And then Trent was kind of a unique story because Trent and I were together at New England, recruited him, went to a pro day at Miami, watched him work out, and that gravitated to eventually sign him in New England. And he was with us at New York when I was there, and have really just been on him the last 2 or 3 years when he's getting done playing, and I'd love to hire him, and that's the way it kind of played out. So I'm excited really to hit the grass tonight. You're going to see all of our guys. We have about 20 plus bodies now that can actively coach, and just to touch our players on a more individualized basis, to get more individualized coaching, development, even film sessions. Like we can do a lot more one-on-ones. I think that helps everybody.
Coach, would you ever consider early in camp, maybe opening camp for a couple days for fans?
I already did. Open it up for 30 minutes for you, and then the fans get a fan day.
How about,
and there's a quarterback day.
Would you ever do more than that, like they did in the NFL forever?
In the what?
In the NFL, they did that forever. Or would you ever consider more like more?
Yeah, probably not.
105 sounds like the number for
For next year.
Do you expect that to be fully funded here with you?
Oh, I don't know. So the roster is 105.
Yeah.
You have a minimum of 85.
Yeah.
There can be no maximums, by the way the rule reads, right? So where that is, the other thing I think that everybody's kind of talked about, but I don't know if everybody understands, there are equivalencies now in football, which has never been done before. So whether they're fully funded or not, I know we have a minimum of 85, but we have a roster of 105. There's a lot of conversations between Josh, obviously myself, and the administration and athletic department before we can kind of hone in on that. But it does affect the 2025 class, right? So I have an idea of what I think it's going to be. I don't think we're ready to go public with that information yet.
What's the difficulty in changing that in what, a semester or two?
Well, I was hoping there was going to be some type of gradual decline, right? Like to go from 120 down to 105 is just, it's quick, it's sudden, but it is what it is. I think the way you practice is literally going to change overnight, right? Like the ability for you to self-serve and to play good on good, and even just kind of in the game week preparation, I don't know if you're going to be able to have the ability and the volume of look team stuff. So even just like Ad and Dana and Myers, those guys will really help us in the preparation of our look teams against our offense and defense. Myers obviously with an offensive background. Dana as a head coach has an idea of what is expected, right? So those two guys in itself will really help us just even this year, which I think will have a bigger effect next year.
You kind of just said it, Brett, but you'd always said the 25 class is going to be a little bit smaller just because you were working on an 85. Is it obvious now that with you working on a 105 maybe?
100%, so we already have, you guys that really follow us know who's already committed to us, right? And we were probably getting to that point where I was within one or two, maybe, right?
In the barn, right?
Now a little bit, I think, a change.
Okay.
But the other thing that comes into play here is like we literally have a roster of 119 players. We'll add another player here in August, but right now we're at 119, and of that 120, there's a very small number of guys that are guaranteed this being their last year, right? Like there's a couple of guys we're counting as seniors who have 2 years of eligibility. They've just expressed that this will probably be their last year, and both of them are major contributors.
Sure.
So obviously, I'm counting on them being gone, but if they turn around, they're both good enough players and said, hey, I'm coming back, we'd probably welcome them back, right?
Sure.
So I think each player is a little bit case by case.
Okay.
Just logistically, I assume Luke is going to be the quarterback. I should
Yeah.
say. Defensively, who do you have? What's the process in these fall window to get everybody kind of on the same page?
Yeah, so the rule will be on game day, there's only one on both sides of the ball that can be on the field. So that's one that you can't compromise, right? But during practice, like even today with the walkthrough, we had 4 we only have 7. We're supposed to get to 10. We didn't get all 10, so there's a little bit of I think when you got 120 Division I teams all want it, right? They just didn't plan or forecast the correct number that we're going to be ready. So we've got 7. So for practice tonight, there'll be 4 offensive and 3 defensive. On the offense, it'll obviously be all 4 of the quarterbacks, and on defense, all 3 will be in the DB position. But in my experiences in the NFL with the CTP, C2P, the coach to player communication, the teams were probably almost a little bit half in the back end, half in the linebacker room, right? So it's a little bit, and I talked to Aaron extensively, in the last 4 or 5 days, just about, hey, let's go one movement, right? See where it's at, and then at some point we may let the linebackers have that communication, just because, in theory, the DBs are a little bit more spread out, so they're going to have communication devices other than the verbal ones. Are going to have to signal to one another. A corner on this side of the field ain't going to be able to talk to the other corner. But up front, you kind of got a little bit more ability. One guy can communicate to a lot of people, so I think there's some advantage to both.
But just a month to the first game, how important is that? Have the practices scripted strategically and just make maximum use of the time you have on the practice?
Pretty obvious question, but like it's a month in time, but we have 25 practices. Every team in college football has 25 practices to get ready for your first game. We've got all 25 mapped out. How we'll use those practices a little bit depend on how well we escalate, how well we stay healthy. I think the more important thing is we got 2 full scrimmages that we can use as an entire scrimmage, right? So for us to use coach-to-player communication, to have tablets available, to be able to use tablets in the locker room at halftime, our scrimmages on those 2 Wednesdays back-to-back, we're going to simulate the first one as an 8 o'clock kickoff, the next one will be a simulated 6 o'clock kickoff, and then our last one will be a simulated 7 o'clock kickoff, because we have all 3 of those in the first 5 games. So I think the use of what we do on game day is going to be incredibly impactful to what we're ready to do on game day itself against Eastern Illinois, because no one's ever done it, right? No one's had, even the NFL, they have iPads or, tablets on the sideline, but they don't have film, right? They had film during the preseason, but not during the regular season. So to use film on the sidelines and in the locker room and to have the headset communication is probably the biggest challenge that's in front of our coaches and players.
Brett, you talked about
One more after this.
more balance with the running game
Uh-huh.
improving. What gives you confidence in this running back group and the offensive line kind of combined that you guys are ready for that?
You hit the nail on the head, probably the combination of both. I can't wait to, there's a lot of people I can't wait to see, but I think in general, the running back room, right, to see Josh McCray looking away, he's looking to see Aiden, see Caden. Jordan's another guy that'll be a little bit limited tonight. He's coming off soft tissue, but those 4 guys, in addition to Khalil, I'm really excited to see that running back room. I think the tight end room has got some new faces. Obviously Cole was with us in the spring, but Tanner now in his second year with us. Cole Goda is a guy that really learns well. Henry Boyer is now in the mix. So we just have a lot more, in my opinion, moving parts of different positions that could help us in the run game. But, we're in a red area here the first 3 days, right? And there's a variety of reasons why we do that. But, it was really, it jumped out to me at the end of the season last year. There was a lot of things we needed to, make better, do better. But like offensively, we made a big jump in production, not just in points, but in touchdown scoring percentages, top 20 in the country. And I think a lot of that was a catalyst of what Barry and the staff did during the out of season to attack those deficiencies, right? And I've always said this, right? Good teams know how to run the ball, defend the run, and obviously cover kicks. So I think offensively and defensively should work off one another during fall camp here to hopefully get better at both.
4 new assistants, Brett, but 3 of them I know were here in the spring. But
Yeah.
just can you talk about how quickly you were able to, in this building, implement them and
Well,
get
I think-
them instituted into what do you do?
And I think because of who they are, I give them a lot of credit, but also, especially on defense, 3 new guys on defense, on offense, 1 guy. Just being able to snap those guys into coordinators have been here a year. So even though there has been some transition, I've been very impressed with who they are, what they represent. Each one of those guys kind of has brought a different thing that I, maybe knew during the hiring process, but has really jumped out to me now. Corey obviously joined us, basically post spring, and he just picks up very quickly. As you guys know, I've talked to him. He's very gifted communicator. He's a guy that really jumps out, the effect that he has on our players right away. Super impressed with Archie and his skill set. Really, Archie's understanding of football has been really, I knew it was there, but it has really been something that's jumped out to me. Clint, work with the outside backers and the expertise that he shows there, and then Step, his benefit not just to our players in the wide receiver room, I think to the offense in general, just the chemistry with Barry. You can see the confidence in him and the way he's affected the whole room. And then some of our other players like Thad Ward has really grown since he's been here. I'm just super impressed with that and his effect on our entire program. So I'm excited about this staff, and then these new additions to get some former guys. I'm really excited to be around Daly on a daily basis, try to spend a moment talking to him. Trent I knew as a player, but never as a coach, right? So I'm really excited about the addition. And Dana and Myers, like I'm sure Barry spoke of it, right? Like his interaction and dealings with Dana has been very impressive to me. And Myers is just kind of a no-nonsense, gets work, do what he does. He's on the defense side. I'm literally usually one of the latter people to leave, and he's still in his office at the end of the night. I know he's excited to get back into it.